I grew up in an abusive household. I was the black sheep of the family, and from a very young age, I knew that my parents saw me differently from my sister. My sister was spoiled in comparison. Every single bad thing that happened in that house was always my fault in my parents' eyes. My father would constantly tell me out of the blue how much happier he'd be if he didn't have kids, how I made his life miserable, that I was a literal demon and not human, and all the ways he wanted to physically hurt me. That's not even the half of it. He would beat me to the point where I couldn't walk properly, but it wasn't as common as the emotional abuse. My mother, on the other hand, just watched and would pretend like nothing happened. Anyway, a few months ago, I was feeling very lost in my life. I have a lot of mental health issues from childhood trauma and didn't know what to do with myself. I decided to call my aunt, who has lived overseas for almost 30 years now. I asked her how she managed to move abroad, and she said, in her words, "I didn't plan it. The plane tickets didn't belong to me. They were your father's tickets. But you should ask him why he didn't go. It's a funny story." My heart dropped immediately. It was like a lifetime of mystery suddenly made sense. My aunt has lived overseas for almost the same amount of time that I've been alive. My father has wanted to live abroad his whole life. My mother was super religious at the time, so an abortion would have been out of the question for her. So currently, I believe I was conceived out of wedlock and that my father hasn't been able to move because of me. My parents were always suspiciously adamant that I wasn't a mistake. Completely out of the blue, they would say how I was an intentional choice. Definitely not a mistake on their part, even when extended family would always look at me differently than they did my sister. Literally everything makes sense now. Why my parents were never really affectionate with each other. Why when I was 8 years old, I asked my mother how my father proposed, and she said it was an agreement. The way my father would call me a mistake all the time in primary school. Why he always blamed every single wrong thing that happened to him on me. It all makes sense. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. My whole life, for as long as I can remember, I believed that I was literally subhuman. I thought there was something fundamentally wrong with me, like I was born broken or a mistake or something. I worked extra hard at school and always had the highest grades. I tried so hard to always be polite, always be respectful, never talk out of turn, never do drugs, just to be someone worth loving. And yet I always failed. Thinking back on my mental health problems now is crazy. I struggle with personal hygiene and cleanliness, and overly clean spaces scare me. I realize that comes from the neglect. I still only have one pair of shoes from 3 years ago because, deep down, I don't think I deserve nice things. I haven't had new clothes in probably 15 years because of this mindset I've been trained to have. I bought one jacket yesterday, and I instantly started dissociating at the mall. Doing anything at all that relates to taking care of myself fills me with anxiety. I wish little me knew that it was never her, that she was a perfectly normal little girl, and that she deserved better. No child deserves to feel like a burden for simply existing. If you've ever felt like you weren't enough, just know, you were never the problem. You were always worthy of love. What do you think about this heartbreaking revelation? Have you ever gone through something similar? Let's talk in the comments. And if this story moved you, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful real-life stories.